The gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Rose, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Cleaver and Ranking Member Hill, for holding this hearing. According to the majority's memorandum for this hearing, the focus of the hearing is intended to explore persistent poverty in regions that are predominantly rural. So I believe that it would have been a good idea for us to have the Rural Housing Service Administrator testify. I'll note that this committee has not had a Biden administration official testify since July 20th. Thankfully, that's changing tomorrow when we will have the bank regulators coming before the committee, but this cannot continue. One of our core responsibilities as members of Congress is oversight, and we cannot conduct adequate oversight when the majority is shielding the administration from scrutiny. Now that, as time is limited, I'll dive right into my questions. In my district in Middle Tennessee, 12.9% of total occupied housing units are manufactured homes. Manufactured housing is an affordable home ownership option available nationwide for minorities, the underserved, and low-income borrowers. USDA's Section 502 offers federal backing for loans issued by approved private sector lenders to low and moderate income families for purchase, construction, or rehabilitation of modest homes. Eligible borrowers can obtain financing for up to 100% of the appraised value of the home. New manufactured homes are currently eligible for financing through the Section 502 program, but existing homes are not. Mr. Potterpin, do we need to make sure that USDA's Section 502 program better supports manufactured housing so that more low and moderate income rural Americans can access financing to purchase manufactured homes?
I think absolutely. I think that we need to make sure that all of USDA's programs need more access, 502, 514, 515, better funding and more access to folks to provide more housing units and to preserve more housing units.
Thank you. I believe that we need broad-based solutions to increase our housing supply to meet demand. This includes both single and multifamily options. Regarding multifamily, research from the National Association of Home Builders and the National Multifamily Housing Council notes that regulations imposed by all levels of government accounts for an average of 40.6% of multifamily development cost. Mr. Potterpin, do you believe that when multifamily development costs rise, it translates to higher rents and reduced rental housing affordability?
Yes, it does. And I would also add that rural areas are impacted even greater because their rents are typically lower. But when the costs rise, as they do everywhere, and we have less options for contractors or competitive bidding, they're feeling the impact even greater, and the rents go up a greater percentage. That's why it's important to improve rental assistance and the amount of assisted units and have more access for these funds.
And so just to reiterate, Mr. Potterpin, do you believe that multifamily development could help improve the supply of affordable housing in rural areas?
No question at all. Yes, it's desperately needed in almost every rural area. And with minimal investment into these programs, we can leverage private dollars on an average of $7 to $11 for every dollar invested to create more units.
The Community Development Block Grant Program was created to help urban areas modernize and respond to the blight and decay that plagued cities in the 1970s. The authorizing statute states that the primary objective of the law was to establish the development of viable urban communities. Since then, cities now have far greater access to economic development and services than their much smaller rural neighbors. Mr. Potterpin, does it make sense to update the mission and purpose of the CDBG program so that it also focuses on the unique challenges of rural Americans living in the 21st century?
CAR would welcome this being addressed. The challenges of rural are different and sometimes greater than those facing their urban counterparts. And I think we need to update this so that we can achieve easier access to these funds. As was noted elsewhere in this hearing, rural municipalities often have less resources to pursue funds and compete for funds than their urban counterparts. carts, so they're at a disadvantage, and they need more assistance in doing so and a level playing field.
Thank you. And Chairman, I see my time has expired. I yield back.